right, guys, welcome to episode number 9. I'm going to kick this off taking a look at a Bible verse as we normally do, and then kind of building on that. Some interesting conversation for today. We'll see kind of what rabbit hole that takes us down. So let's start with 1 Peter 2:2. Like newborn babies crave pure spiritual milk, so that by it you may grow up in your salvation. What does that mean? How can we apply that to our life today? So, as a newborn would crave milk of their mother for nourishment, our spiritual and personal growth requires feeding on the right sources of both wisdom and strength. And we must continually seek what builds us up and strengthens our foundation. That's the whole premise of what 1 Peter 2:2 means. Right? It is about nourishing your soul with truth and wisdom and allowing it to guide your decisions and fuel your growth in life. Doesn't matter what you do for a living. Doesn't matter where you're at in your life. It doesn't matter how hard or crappy the day you just had or you're having. Doesn't matter what victory that you just overcame. No matter what, life is going to throw you ups and downs. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter how big of a house you live in. None of that is relevant to your actual well-being, your actual growth and nourishment of your soul, your ability and desire to seek both truth and wisdom. When we get to a high place in our career, and I did that at a young age, you think that you're untouchable. You think that you have. Just because you reached your goal doesn't mean that somebody else's goal doesn't way outscale yours. And I think that was part of my growth this year. As I got through life, I don't think that I set my initial goals high enough. And kind of in this new life that I'm now living, post-transplant, physically and mentally recovering from 3 years of living hell, I've now set a goal so high that I know on my own it's unattainable. But I know with Christ that I can work every day for the rest of my life towards it. And because it's the will He set upon my life, I know that whether it's achieved or not, whatever is achieved is that I'm walking in faith and not in my own. So, while these aspirations are massive, on the scale of what others have achieved in a similar amount of time, perhaps maybe it's not. I just know that the growth from here forward is not growth that I'll ever take for granted. It's not growth that I'll ever lean on myself as the reason for it. I will just give it all to God. Right? All the glory of everything that transpires in my life is given to Christ. And now that goal will more than likely, at least I hope in my lifetime, become reality. And I feel like it's a reality of what I'm doing to, what I'm moving towards and doing direction of the God that I'm serving. So I lean on Christ every day. I read the Bible, or I listen to lecture on the Bible. I try to teach myself something new with each passing day. It allows for me to continually grow deeper in my faith. And I think growing deeper in my faith is what continues me down this track of doing what I do. Now, when I started trading many, many years ago, 13, 14 years ago at this point, I was trading purely for the freedom that came with this business. Right? When you are able to sit at the computer, in the comfort of your own home, earn an above average living, right? A living that could contend with some of the best doctors, the best lawyers, the best accountants, some of the most highly paid, highly skilled individuals from the comfort of my own home. That became freedom, right? And when you're earning that type of money, you're not chained into responsibilities that you don't want to do. Now that's a blessing and a curse, because it's a blessing if you know what you're going to do with that money. It's a curse if you have just all this extra money at hand and you have no idea what purpose it serves, right? So my purpose in, I guess, the second half of my life at this point, because that's really where I'm at, and it may not even be the second half, it may be like the final third of my life at this point, because transplants are not forever. Sometimes they are, but more often than not, the transplant which I've received will have a shelf life, and that shelf life probably doesn't take me to life expectancy. So I would say that I'm maybe in the final third stage of my life, either final 25% or 20% of my life. I don't know, but I do have a clear vision of what I'm doing. I have a clear vision of what I'm building. I have a clear vision of where this is going. I have a clear vision of the purpose that is my life at this point, today and moving forward. So I may have mentioned it before, like we are in the process of building a charity. That charity is going to have multiple arms, serving a bunch of different meaningful purposes, and that's my goal. So when I get up every morning to trade, I don't get up every morning to earn money for me to spend the day. I come into the market to trade in order to build money to invest into this charity, to take this charity and make it a reality, give this charity charity a home, a landmark, a building, a center. So there's always this greater cause, and I think when I was younger, and my cause for working, my cause for my efforts, what I built was for personal gratification. And as you get older and you reach those personal gratification goals, you start to look back and go, did I do something for a higher purpose than myself, or did I just crave something for myself? And for the first half of my life, or first 2/3 of my life, I did. I just craved things for myself. And, that's not the point that I'm at, today or anymore. Now it's all for something higher than myself. And I think that's what's helped me repurpose into building something that's long-lasting, something that can be carried on, something that can be left behind, something that, not just my family, but other families that are involved can have a piece of a legacy in something, right? And that's kind kind of what's moved me towards where I am today. It's moved me from, and I'll tell you, it improved my trading immensely. Not that my trading was bad, but like you can always be a better trader. I felt like when I was trading for a purpose greater than myself, or greater than the benefits that it provides myself, I trade much better. I think it's actually helped me help other traders trade much better. And for that, I mean, I'm just totally grateful, totally blessed. So that's where kind of 1 Peter 2:2 comes into my thought process, and I reflected on this verse this morning. I included this verse in the blog post I put out earlier. I just basically want to share the meaning of these daily verses with folks who choose to watch this content. I think it's meaningful to put Christ above everything, and then everything else falls in order. When you don't put Christ above everything, everything else seems to become disarray. So, what do I want to talk about today? Where's Joe Biden? Okay. Where is he? Let's talk about the elephant that's not in the room. He was on stage yesterday, the day before, addressing a press conference, inviting the leader of India up to the podium, but had no idea what to say. And had no idea who he was there to invite to the podium. He basically comes out and goes, well, who am I supposed to invite up? And then, since he doesn't get an answer immediately, he then gets this loud, sharp, who's next? In the microphone. Joe Biden is no longer cognitive and has not been for a long time. Who's running our country? Right? Now, the Democrats continue to swear that he's okay and he's with it and blah, blah, blah. And there's a tactic to that. And I want to kind of discuss what I think that tactic is. The tactic for them continuing to say, even though they took him off the ticket and piped Harris in, even though she continues to swear that he's well and perfectly fine, he's clearly not. We have watched his cognitive decline. He wasn't fit to do this job 4 years ago. Okay, when he won the election from his basement, questionably. Who's ran the country for the last 4 years? The answer to that is very simple. The country's always been ran by, what I refer to as the establishment. Right? There's a handful of men who are in a room, right? Doors locked, who make decisions for this country. Because they own this country. They're nobody you're going to see on TV, right? Who do they want in office? Well, they want somebody that they can tell what to do without any pushback. What do the Democrats provide? Well, they provide candidates who will do what they're told because they financially benefit from it. Barack Obama, okay? Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, right? They'll be told what to do and they'll do it, and that's why they all have multiple multi-million-dollar homes and Martha's Vineyard and everywhere else. Okay. The reason that they didn't want Trump from the beginning is because he disrupted that model. Right? He disrupted a model that's been in play for a long time. This is the first time that the Democrats have allowed a candidate who has physically and cognitively failed in front of the camera over and over and over again. Now, I believe it's the 25th Amendment that the vice president can declare the president unfit for office and then assume the position of president, which Kamala Harris has not done. Why has she not done it? Because Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, the Democrat Party, they're running a campaign of change. And the Democrats are buying it. The voters are buying it, which is just crazy. Okay? Nothing's going to change. The reason she didn't take the seat of presidency is because then she now owns it as the incumbent president instead of trying to disown it as the prior vice president now running for president. She rubber stamped everything that's went wrong with this country in the last 3.5 years. She rubber stamped bailing out the rioters, right, from the summer of 2020, and they destroyed our American cities. She rubber stamped a wide open border at the southern part of our country. She has rubber stamped arguably 21 million illegal immigrants roaming our country. She has rubber stamped everything that has gone wrong during the Biden-Harris administration. But their campaign model is to separate her from that and now market her as this new model, this new Harris-Walz model. They don't want to talk about the Biden-Harris model, right? So that's the reason that they haven't pushed her to assume the presidency. Haven't pushed her to assume the presidency because then they feel like they are admitting that they own everything that's gone wrong with this country. Instead, they're just letting Joe fail miserably. Dr. Jill Biden, who received a doctorate degree at a community college, if I'm not mistaken, in education, ran a cabinet meeting the other day while Joe Biden sat somewhere in the middle of the table, aimlessly lost, staring into space, no idea what's going on, why he's there, if he shit his pants or not, while his wife, who we didn't vote for to be president, is running a cabinet meeting. She has no business running a cabinet meeting. She's not the president or the vice president of the United States. But if Kamala Harris ran a cabinet meeting, that would be them admitting, right, in the eyes of the voters that Joe is not able to do the job, and then they're trying to disassociate Kamala with the entire dumpster fire that our country has become. Now, I know that people that hate Trump are just going to vote Democrat. I know that registered Democrats are going to just vote Democrat. It's what they do. I can't believe how close the polling numbers are, because I can't believe that people want more of this, right? More gender dysphoria, more inflation. If you don't think the Federal Reserve didn't cut a 0.5 point interest rate to help the Democrats, you're blind and stupid. Okay? That was the Federal Reserve rubber stamping the Harris-Walz ticket. The IRS came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Why do we have a branch of government endorsing a political party? You collect our taxes. What does that have to do with endorsing a particular party? I I don't quite understand. So, what I see is the establishment running this election the way they want it ran, with the things in focus that they want in focus. They're strategically hiding her and Waltz because he's a weirdo. They're strategically using their ability to just win another election like they did with Joe Biden from his basement, right? And it's pretty awful. It's pretty awful. Right? There are stories out there, if you are open to looking beyond traditional media outlets, because they're all owned by the establishment as well, right? They're just paid actors. That's all they are. Paid actors. Right? There are Soros-backed organizations leveraging waves of new immigrants to sway elections. Right? Don't you think this mass, I don't even want to call it immigration, because it's not. It's a mass violation of our country. Right? We have been violated from the southern border in a massive way. And we are registering people to vote who are not even citizens of the United States. That's a problem. Right? We are organizing online voting to be made, or mail-in voting to be made for people all over the world. Some of which who are not American citizens. Most of which. Because that's what they're focused on. Right? They're focused on how do we leverage all these people that we've allowed through the southern border. Right? They didn't do it for, right? They didn't do it on grand gesture. They did it so that they can utilize that margin of error in their favor. If you're an illegal immigrant, so that's what you are, you're illegal, you're illegally here in the United States, one presidential party brought you in and gave you a place to live, a cell phone, EBT card, food, all on taxpayers' dime, who do you think they're going to vote for? They're going to vote for the president that wants them to become a citizen and get a job and be a contributing member of society? Or are they going to vote for the president that gave them free stuff? They're going to vote for the president that gave them free stuff. Well, it's not free stuff. It's stuff on the backs of the taxpayers. Right? We're at $36 trillion in national debt. The current interest rate, I think we're paying $3 billion a day in interest. When is all this going to be dissipated? Like, who's going to pay for all this? My personal opinion is that one day we'll wake up and there will be a collapse of the U.S. dollar, which is the world's reserve currency. We'll wake up, it'll be all over the news, all over social media. Your money is now worthless. Whatever cash that you have possession of, you have till X day to surrender to your banking institution, and you will now be issued digital currency, which you can pay through your phone. Who's going to manage these digital currencies? Visa, MasterCard, American Express, because trust me, the credit card companies aren't going to go out of business over this, right? And there'll be one world currency. And once that currency is in place, they will be able to control what you buy, they'll be able to control what you sell, you'll be able to control how much food you're able to purchase, you'll be able to control how much money you're able to spend on gasoline, whatever it may be. Basically, the government will have complete control. They can authorize or deny the purchase of whatever it may be, right? Including firearms and a variety of other things. So, they're doing this They're doing this in China where, if you violate a law or something, they just take the money from you, right? They have facial recognition. If you jaywalk across the street outside of a crosswalk, like they take facial recognition, they will just take money from your account. They will, if you don't have money, they hit your social credit score, essentially, and now you're unable to do things. Like, it becomes complete control. And if there's no disrupting the establishment, which there are educated people that are going to vote for Kamala Harris, which blows my mind. The people that blow my mind the most that are going to vote for her are educated Jewish women. Listen, I'm not against having a female president or entertaining the idea of it. I'm against having somebody who has let our country go to hell in a handbag over the last 3+ years to watch it continue for the next 4. Is Trump perfect? No, nobody is. He's a dirty, rotten sinner just like I am and everybody else. Is there a perfect candidate for president? No, there's not. Right? Nobody is ever going to be perfect. But we had good policy, right? We had no new wars. We had peace in the Middle East. We had a good run until COVID came along. Okay? And we all know that COVID is there's certainly a lot of suspicion around COVID. So I'll leave you with this for today. I'm going to wrap up. Joe Biden has no longer any cognitive or physical ability to be the president of the United States. Arguably, he hasn't had the cognitive ability to be the president of the United States for the last 3.5, almost 4 years. Period. End statement. Okay. The reason that Kamala Harris has not enacted the 25th Amendment and forced him to step down and her to step up is because they're trying to disassociate her with owning the shitstorm that they've built over the last several years, because they're trying to sell you change, and those who are ignorant enough to believe it and buy it are going to go to the voting booth and vote for it, and all you're going to see is the same thing get worse. So we have no president at the moment. Right? The president that we have is a shell of a human being who is barely alive, sleeping on a beach in Delaware, showing up to whatever meetings he's showing up to, showing up to whatever events he's showing up to, has zero cognitive ability to understand where he is or why he's there or what he's doing. We now have his wife stepping in running cabinet meetings, who has never been elected to any official office in the White House. And we have Kamala out on the campaign trail trying to sell you snake oil. Who you're going to believe, what you're going to believe, what choice you're going to make in the voting booth, I can't control any of that. All I'm trying to do is enlighten the fact that continuing to vote for what we currently have is not the right answer. While Trump is far from perfect, giving him and J.D. Vance the chance to try to dig us out of the hole that we're in is the best shot we have for the next 4 years, and then we'll see who's on the ticket when we cross that bridge. But letting Kamala stay in the White House, person had a 93% staff turnover rate, is going to be an absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. She didn't belong there in the first place. She's never had one primary vote to even put her on this ticket. And now they want to make her president, when she's unwilling to own everything that's gone wrong over the last 3.5 years that her name was on as vice president. And they're mentally disassociating her with Biden as much as they possibly can in order to try to secure this next election. For me, somebody should step in and go, Joe is clearly not fit. She now needs to own the presidency. They won't do that because they don't want her to own all the crap that's gone wrong. Listen, they used Biden. He was not mentally fit to do this job from the beginning. He just got paid a lot of money and got a lot of deals for him, his brother, his kid, his family, right? Tons and tons of money. It's not the $400,000 a year, believe me. He and his family continue to get very, 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 very wealthy as president of the United States. And they just figured, well, we'll just push him in the direction we want him to go in, and he will because he's not well enough to push back. Right? And now they're going to do the same thing with Kamala. She don't care. She's making tons of money, sick money. Well, she'll just go along with the show. Because the truth is, she will go along with the show. Why? Because she doesn't have half a brain to think otherwise. That's how she got to where she was. And that's how she got to where she is. And for a person who never received one single primary vote to be on the ticket for president is now the person that they're going to pipe in. And they're going to use every single resource that they have. I'm talking about money. I'm talking about votes from people who are not American citizens. And we are going to be in a world of trouble. This happens. If she's elected successfully in November, and she takes office in January, I don't care what the stock market says. Okay? The quality of life for the folks in the middle class is continuing to shrink because you've either had to elevate yourself to the point where you're wealthy or you've fallen to the point where you're in poverty. The American middle class that we had for 5, 6, 7 decades doesn't exist anymore. Right? Families can't live on one income. Very few can live on one income. Quality of life, the quality of our children's lives, the quality of our grandchildren's lives, our families' lives has depleted and continues to deplete rapidly. And if we don't get some control of this, the conversation that we'll have in 4 years from now is going to be a lot worse than the conversation we're having now. And if I'm right, and if the next true economic disruption is the collapse of the U.S. dollar, we will become a third world country overnight. If you are not in the top 10% of the 1%, right? If you're not at the tippy top of the food chain, our country will become a third world country overnight. It will. Because our money will become worthless. So, take it or leave it for what it is. We don't have a current acting president at the moment, which to me is a problem. Our current acting vice president shouldn't be on the ticket because she never got one single primary vote. And if our current acting vice president becomes our next president, the downward spiral that we're already in is only going to accelerate. Is Trump the perfect answer? Will he fix everything? No, but he'll try. And just like we were better off 4 years after he was elected, we'll be better off 4 years after he's elected this time. If that's able to happen. And it very well may not be. Because they're trying to kill this guy every chance they get. And if he gets elected, God only knows what's going to happen. Right? I don't think that they ever plan on letting him step foot back in that White House. whether that means he loses this election or they kill him. I don't believe that the establishment has any intention of allowing Donald Trump to step back into the White House. It would be too disruptive. He was too disruptive last time, although he was good for we the people. He was too disruptive to the establishment. And I truly think, deep down inside, I know many, many people lost their lives. COVID was a disruption to stop him from continuing down the path of serving the American people so that the establishment could regain control and serve themselves. We'll see what happens. So, until the next episode, God bless, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day. And if anybody can find Joe Biden, let me know where he's at, if he's still breathing.